Retro Rewind. Retro Rewind. 20 years of radio history, celebrating over 30 years of the greatest songs ever made.
Hey, Deborah Gibson here. Thanks for logging on to RetroRewind.com.
Retro Rewind!
This is Retro Rewind. Retro Rewind.
I know we have a lot of New Kids fans that are, listening to us of late. And,
Yes.
And there, of course, you did the duet with Jordan a couple of years
Yeah,
back. And
yeah.
then when John attended your event the other night, it was...
I know. He made us a ton of money to send kids to our camp. Thank you, John. He really did.
Those are class acts, those guys. And
I know.
I think a lot of people want to hear you do a duet with Joe now, with Joe McIntyre.
I love
so.
Joey.
Yeah, Joe. He's a
or
hell of a
Broadway
singer.
show, because he's another Broadway,
Yeah.
convert.
Right.
But yeah, I had so much fun singing with Jordan. That was another one of those things. I got that call and I was like, that sounds like fun, darn it. I had never toured with them back in the day. We kind of just crossed paths, and John's become a great friend over the years. And it's so great to see people like that having their round too.
Isn't it nice?
It's great. And
Yeah.
again, I look at Universal Records, just took them and went, you're it. We're doing this. And
go.
picked up the phone and relentlessly called the hottest producers who,
Wanted
in the
to work with
beginning, in the beginning, some of them were like, what? They had that kind of cynical thing.
Yeah, okay.
And once the first round of producers got on board and the others got wind of it and
Maybe
things
that's what
started
it
to
was,
spiral, it was. And it's just, I love that they're having the last laugh.
Oh, they
They're
are.
out there playing for 20,000 people a night, and it's so great. And I don't think people ever thought they would have seen New Kids on the Block at the top of the charts again. And
Right.
that goes to show you anything is possible.
Hey, that's a good song title, too.
Yeah.
By the way.
Exactly.
Tales from the Top is stories behind number one hits.
Oh,
and,
cool.
And you had two.
Uh-huh.
So if we could get you to talk a little bit about Foolish Beat from the summer of '88, maybe a little bit about the history behind the song and what you were doing when you found out that one hit number one. And
Cool. Foolish Beat was really just inspired by the sound of what was on the radio at the time. I remember, George Michael had kind of some dark, moody ballads. Even Expose had dark, moody ballads. It was just like, I need to write my dark, moody ballad.
Yeah.
I had never been in love, so I wasn't really singing I Could Never Love Again the Way I Loved You, because I was only 14.
You wrote that when you were 14?
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Yeah. So it just kind of that was my first round of demos that I did.
See, kids,
starting
you need
at
to listen to this.
12 or
14.
13. So you kind of write these cliche things that you hear, or I had older sisters that were always falling in and out of love every other second, so
Yeah.
I kind of drew from that. I found out it went number one actually when I was in my living room auditioning backup singers for my tour.
How about that?
And I was teaching them, amongst other things, that song, the background parts.
Yeah.
And it was and the phone rang, and it was and you have an inkling, it's climbing with a bullet, and you think
Right.
it's going to go, and
Yeah.
And there
Did
it
you,
was,
did you,
and
knock, you knocked out Michael Jackson, right? Is that right? Or
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That didn't suck too much.
No.
That's a
I
pretty
used
big
to.
hit.
That was always a big deal to see who you were around on the charts.
Yeah.
Because again, you were like, oh my God, I'm around Michael Jackson and George Michael and all these people I'm
Yeah.
fans of, and there's my name amongst their names, and that thrill never wears off. I have those plaques hanging on my wall in my house now, and it's like, wow. It's pretty cool.
Did you know at the time did you know hey, if this song goes to number one, I'll be the youngest person ever to write and produce and perform?
I don't think I knew that, but then I was told that after the fact, which was crazy.
Now, which is odd because didn't you co-produce, or Fred Czar, is it Czar?
Fred Czar.
He produced most of your stuff, but on this song it was just you.
It was just me, because I knew it was like a gimmick-free production that I knew what I wanted it to sound like.
There you go.
I remember Jeff Smith, the saxophonist, being in the booth and me going, I want it grittier, I want it dirtier, take it up to this note, take it down to that note, and my mom going, oh God. And I knew, I almost had to show off any musical knowledge I had more than the next guy, literally guy.
Yeah.
I had to be make that a B flat minor seventh chord instead of because they were so ready to say, this little girl can't produce her own record.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had to work doubly as hard to arm myself with knowledge, and with knowledge about the board we were recording on, and with, I had to know sequencer terminology and keyboard terminology, and it would be okay if Jelly Bean walked in and didn't know this is a DX7 or this is a whatever. But I had to know because they were
Yeah.
ready to say, oh, she's just some little chick singer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your other number one hit, "Lost in Your Eyes."
Mm-hmm.
What's the story behind that? Were you lost in anyone's eyes?
I was so boy crazy, I couldn't narrow it down to one boy, but I just remember coming home from school.
That's why it's eyes as opposed to I, right?
There you go. It was
Okay.
all the boys' eyes.
Yeah.
No, I remember coming home from school and just sitting at the piano, and literally that intro just kind of played itself, and I went from there. And it's just so bizarre that that's still to this day how the best songs are written, I think,
Yeah.
is when you're just kind of in that like
here.
creative mood, and you're in
Yeah.
like a mellow, like this is Zen place, and
Yeah.
you're not editing yourself or overthinking anything, and I wasn't. I just was like, bling, 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 I get lost. Oh, okay, get out the pen.
Yeah.
And it kind of wrote itself in 5 minutes. And I started performing it on the first tour, even though it was on the second album, and I knew it felt like a hit. It felt like a song that people already had heard before and embraced before it had ever been released. It just had that. It's like you know when something's a hit. And look, the stars also have to align, and radio has to embrace you that
Yeah.
minute.
Which we did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you have to have the song at the very least. And I knew I had the song. I knew that song was a hit, and I knew that it would last. And it's funny because some of the simplest love songs, again, that the critics knock because it's not like earth-shatteringly new information you're getting in the song.
Right.
But that song I performed at Harrah's in Atlantic City last year, and I picked the couple out of the audience who had been married the longest. And there was a couple that had been married like 68 years, and I sang it to them, and they're
that gives you
bawling, and their
goosebumps.
families crying.
Aw.
I know, and it's a song written by a little girl 20 years ago, and it can always, if it's a universal theme, and if the melody is timeless and not gimmicky, and the production's not gimmicky, you can sing it forever.
That's one of your most requested songs on our show. In fact,
cool.
if not the. That's
so
your biggest
cool.
hit chart-wise as far as 3 weeks at number one.
Yeah. I mean, Only in My Dreams was on the charts for over a year.
Right.
Actually, it took over a year just to get into the top 5.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, it took 65 weeks. Yeah, that was the overnight success. 65
Yes.
weeks of me exhausting myself. I was like,
Right.
I'm the most exhausted overnight sensation on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
But I'm really proud of that song. And on the other hand, this might sound strange, but I feel like I had nothing to do with writing it. Like it just wrote itself.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So you just kind of give birth to it, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it's my baby out there in the world,
Yeah,
doing its thing.
I think I think Gunnar Nelson told me once that if you write, if you have a number one song, you better like it because you'll be singing it for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why people like I've heard like David Cassidy say, I don't like singing those songs that were hits back in the '70s because he didn't create them; they were forced upon him.
Right.
But if you write your own songs, that's one of the special things about it is they're forever your babies.
Yeah.
I will always remember where I was when I wrote it, and I'm connected to it always. So I'll never not perform those hits. I mean, I'll be performing Electric Youth till I'm 85. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, well, you know what? And you might have that. There's something gives you some energy. If you just watch the Celebrity Apprentice, Joan Rivers, with all that energy she had.
I know.
For 75
And
years
again, you
old.
look at Cher, who's 65, I think.
Yeah.
And she comes out and sings, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I mean, that's brilliant. But
You
that's the
know?
same kind of thing. It's like you can always be searching and youthful and wise.
Well, look at
but-
McCartney. He's like 60, almost 70,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still bopping around,
Yeah,
hitting
I
all
know,
those
keeping
notes.
it fresh.
Yeah.
Retro Rewind.
The 90s, 80s, the 70s. It's all right now on Retro Rewind.